We are halfway through the year, and I want to give you a little peek into how my planning and journaling is going so far. Rather than wait until the end of the year, we're going to sit down with my journals and my planner and talk about what's been working, what hasn't been working so well, and give you a flip through of everything I've created so far. And because I have a few journals and definitely quite a few entries to share with you, we're going to do this in parts, starting with my common planner. So, welcome to my abiding journal. My name is Kelsey Lee. Grab yourself some coffee or tea and your own journal or planner if you like, and let's sit down and take a peek inside. All right, so welcome to my desk and say hello to my notebook that I spend the most time with so far this year. This is the Sterling Ink N2H Compact Full Year Common Planner for 2024. And I'm actually then going to skip all of these little intro pages that they have at the front of the Sterling Ink Common Planner because we're going to revisit these when I talk about how I want to change some of my practices and how I use this journal in a little bit. But first, I want to share with you how I've been using the monthly pages and then the weeklies as well, which is definitely the bread and butter of how I've been using this notebook. So I'll go through the monthlies pretty quickly. You can see that I pretty much am using them to just write in a few events and things that are happening in my life. I do love to incorporate some of my stickers from our monthly journaling club sticker collections available on my Patreon. They have been super fun to incorporate since they are themed after each of the months. They've been great for decorating my planner. And then I have a Patreon checklist for all the things that I need to make sure I am providing over there for my amazing patrons. I love to use washi tape to indicate when I have an event that is stretching across multiple days, like a trip to New Hampshire. Then we have February, really very similar layout, but this time I added a top 3 priorities over in this left-hand column and also started adding in what videos I wanted to make sure I created that month. March is very similar. This time I used some little stamp boxes from my printables and also added some fun coffee stickers just to indicate some coffee dates that I had, but otherwise very similar in how I was creating my layouts. April, super similar. I moved my top 3 priorities over here since I put the month title on the left-hand column, but how I am using the spreads is remaining the same. We then move into May, and I definitely didn't have as much time for decorating this month and kept it more simple. And then June is the last month where I had a little bit of fun with some washi tape and stickers, but otherwise just kept it really minimal. Patreon checklist, priorities. I will say something I want to get better at in the coming 6 months for the next half of the year is I want to just get better at really being very intentional with the priorities I set and making sure that they're actually ones that I'm going to accomplish, like actual tasks that I want to make sure get done that month. And then I also want to go back to the beginning where I was having a little bit more fun with using stickers and things to decorate and explain what would be happening in the month. And then the final thing I want to get better at is actually referencing these monthly pages each week as I set up what I need to do for the week, that I would first be checking in with the monthly and seeing what events I have, and then using that as a starting point and a guide for what I need to do. Because if I'm being totally honest, I often set these up at the beginning of the month to get my bearings straight, and then I don't reference it again until the end of the month when I'm checking things off. So I would like to change that and be a little bit more intentional about actually looking at the monthly pages throughout the month as I'm filling out my to-do list each week. We're now going to get into my favorite part, which is my weekly task list. But before we do, I want to take a brief moment to recognize and thank today's sponsor, Skillshare. If you have been here for a while, then it is no secret how much I love Skillshare, but I am feeling a special fondness for them this summer because summer is just that time where I feel like I can really dive into exploring new skills and new hobbies. And whenever I want to learn a new skill or just level up in a hobby I already enjoy, I always turn to Skillshare first because they are the largest online learning community for creatives and offer thousands of classes in countless categories from illustration, graphic design, and photography to music, marketing, and productivity. With it being the middle of the year, I have really been feeling that need for a fresh start and a little bit of a reset. So I've been turning to the productivity section of Skillshare a lot lately. And while there are so many amazing classes in this category on Skillshare, I keep coming back to the master himself, Ali Abdaal, and I've really been enjoying his learning path as a nice reset going into the next half of the year. It bundles together all of his best productivity classes. And I can tell you, with Ali's help, I am feeling ready and confident to tackle the next half of 2024. So if you are also feeling the need for some mid-year motivation, or maybe looking to try a new skill this summer, I'm excited to share that the first 500 people to use my link in the description will receive a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. When you use my link, you don't only get access to an amazing resource, but also help out this channel. So thank you, and thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring. So now we get into my weeklies, and I definitely feel that this is where this notebook has been most helpful for me. So as you can see, for the first week of January, here I have my what's for dinner. I don't plan for breakfast and lunch. They are very much kind of just whatever works that day, but I do like to meal plan for dinners. So I have those mapped out for the week. And then I put events and tasks here on the right side of this page. And then I just had a running to-do list for the week and a habit tracker here at the bottom with the habits listed on the left, and then Monday through Sunday with just a letter representing them over on this axis, so I could just kind of mark them off as the week is going by. And that layout did work really well for me. Of course, getting into the second week, we already entered kind of a weird week where we were going away for a long weekend. So I actually changed things up in this case and created a packing list and had a little bit shorter of a task list since we just were getting thrown out of our normal routine by having a trip. But then the next week, we went back to that same style of having my meals for dinner, events, tasks, and habit tracking. And you can see that in this case, there's nothing really pretty about this. I put a little box around the titles, but otherwise, this was just purely functional, and that is okay. That is the way a lot of my weeks are. This one too, purely functional. I did try this time something a little different with my tasks and habits, where I put them together and then had a running list of Monday through Sunday, and then was doing some migrating. So I would kind of go through and see what I wanted to accomplish on Monday. If I didn't get it done, I would put a little caret and move it to the next day and see if I would get it done. And I would also add tasks as the days were happening in the week. And this way is nice because Sometimes there are tasks and habits that maybe I want to do multiple days and not just once and done. Something else a little different about this entry is you can see I put a little breaking news here and mentioned the sad fact that a lady hit our parked car and totaled it. And so this was just a total unexpected thing that was thrown into our week. And then you can see over here, I added the task of research cars with a frowny face because that was definitely not a task I intended on having to do at the beginning of the year. When we get into the first week of February, I did use some fun pink washi to divide the different sections, and you can see I added a section here in the middle for exercise because that was a habit I was getting back into. And then I continued with my tasks and habits being lumped together. Again, same thing, very similar layout, exercise, habits, and then tasks. This time, similar format, but I separated out the habits and the tasks. You know, again, just really small tweaks along the way, kind of seeing what works for me, what doesn't. I realized at this point that I really liked having my meals, my exercise, and my events as a three-part system here on the left. And then something I tried this time was going back to having a habit tracker at the bottom. And I love this cute little setup here with some stickers. These habit tracking stickers are available in my Daily Rhythms collection on Patreon. So you can go and download that if you're interested. And then the weekly tasks, I did keep the system of the Monday through Sunday write up and then kind of assigning tasks to the day and then migrating them when they didn't get done. And then if they were completely done, I just drew a line through the rest of the days. So I knew that I didn't need to do it anymore and didn't need to pay attention anymore to that task. This is a great example of my weekly pages, I think, kind of working at their best and something I want to mimic as I get back to planning in the next 6 months. And then here again, very similar setup, just incorporating some fun washi tape. And then here at the start of March, I did the same layout again. And if you want to see how I set this up and actually walk you through how I used it throughout the week, I have an entire video here on my channel that is a week in my journal and planner where I have some really fun vlog style content, just walking through how I'm doing some of the exercise, some of the tasks and habits over here, and then checking them off and filling this out as we go through the week. So I highly recommend you watch that video next. Here again, we have a very similar setup. Something I did want to note is I do love to use highlighter or my Tombow brush markers to delineate between the different days of the week. It just helps visually to be able to understand kind of where you are in the week as you are trying to check things off and also how you are able to line them up with the tasks. We then have the week of Easter, and you can see that I did not use this side to its full advantage. I was feeling a little bit overwhelmed with preparing to host Easter, and you can see instead of focusing on habits, I instead just wrote out our Easter menu as I was planning for that. So that's the really nice thing about planning in this way is you can make each new week work for you and just adapt your style and your setup to the needs of that period. This next page brings in April, and my sense of overwhelm just continued because I actually did not pick up my planner at all this week. And I just put a fun sticker just basically to use it and wrote so much for starting a new month on the right foot. I didn't open my planner once, so just being very honest with myself. And then over here saying, oh, well, there's always next week. So literally just to put something on the page and say, hey, we all have those weeks and those days, and it's okay. And the point isn't just to close the book and quit, but to say, we can turn the page and start again. And that's what I did. So we turned the page and actually made a very beautiful layout and got totally back into my rhythm of planning out my meals, my exercise, again, having some events listed and doing my to-do list and my habit tracking. This next week, I remember I wasn't feeling super well, so I actually took out the exercise column and then also didn't really focus on my habits as much and instead just created a little bit of a future log, things that I knew were upcoming that I didn't want to forget. Nothing really new and groundbreaking this week, but I do want to share this cute little collage of ephemera down here at the bottom. I love when I do have the time just taking a moment to just put some stickers down. Some of these are from my Patreon, others are just ones that I had in my stash, and it's just a fun way to kind of get out a little bit of creativity and have something pretty to look at as you're going through your week and checking off tasks. This one was a really nice layout, but you can see that I didn't write down anything for exercise, and my task list I didn't actually really use until the end of the week. So it looks really beautiful and it looks productive, but if you actually get down into it, it's not quite as productive as it could be. This again was a weird week where Ben was away for work. I had a very intense week of work for my job, and so my home life was just basically stripped back to the bare minimum. So I just had a few tasks that I knew had to get done that week, but otherwise it wasn't my priority. This sticker here is a great example of the free printables. Every month, I now put out a free sticker for everybody who is a patron, whether you are there on the free tier option or are a paid member where you get tons of bonus content. So it's a great way to stay updated on everything that is happening here at My Abiding Journal and to get yourself a free sticker each month. This was a very fun week in terms of the decorating. I had a lot of fun with some beautiful washi tape and this gorgeous washi that I got from Obujo. I do have a discount code for them linked in the description if you're interested in this or any of their other awesome supplies. Using my habit tracker sticker again and some other little quote stickers from the Daily Rhythms collection, but I just really love how this looks, and it's very clear that I was fully engaged this week. I was using it from start to finish throughout the week, checking off my tasks, pretty active with my habits. Just a really good week in my weeklies. Here is another example of switching things up to meet your needs. I only had a few days where we were home and then we went to Canada for our 5-year anniversary. So instead of continuing to just have blank space here, I wrote in a little packing list for our trip. And I also had a future log under our task list because there were things I wanted to remember to do when we got back. I did a similar thing here where I had a running task list, this time without kind of demarcating Monday through Sunday because part of this week we were still in Canada, and then I just had a little list of things for the following week. Threw in a little doodle for good measure, so you can also get creative in very simple ways and without having a ton of supplies. Just using a pen and another color like a highlighter or marker is super fun. Here I put meals and exercise together and my events and priorities together because I found that my events column wasn't always full and I wanted to use this space more. So I thought if instead I identified a key priority for each day, that would help me to use this space and also help me to focus my day a little bit more about what I wanted to prioritize. So that I think is something I really want to continue moving forward. And then again, I have a task list. So we are getting towards the end of June, and I can feel myself pulling away again from my planning. I am using it, but you can tell that I've really stripped things back. That usually is the case when I'm feeling a little bit overwhelmed by everything else in my life. You can usually tell that when I'm stripping back how I'm approaching my planner. And here, that is definitely the case. It is true here as well. You can tell by just like missing days, a really short task list. I definitely was doing a lot more than what is on here, but just wasn't actually taking the time to write it down. And then you see it come full circle when we get to the last week of June, where I just said, nope, no planning happening here, just living life as it comes. And then I did some little stickers over here about letting it go, and that it was one of those crazy weeks where I just didn't plan. So it's definitely a shame to end the weeklies on that note, with the fact that, yeah, I had another week where I just didn't get into my planner. But it's also real and honest. And I hope it's an encouragement to you that if you have had weeks like this, or if your entire first half of 2024 has felt like this, where you're just like, I don't even have time to write things down, I'm so overwhelmed. I hope you feel that you are, one, not alone, and two, that you really do feel that you can turn the page and start anew with the next 6 months and get back into that planning habit. This does not need to be the rest of the year. You really can start again. And I can confirm in the first 2 weeks of July, I'm already off to a better start again and feeling that sense of renewal that the second half of the year always brings. So I hope that you will feel that sense of renewal too. So I would say my goal going into the next half of the year is to have less weeks like this, but also to give myself grace when they occur. And hopefully, my goal is that I would have more weeks that look along these lines. I really love this format and this style, and I think this is definitely where my weeklies were at their best, where I was getting the most done and feeling the most accomplished in terms of staying on top of my habits, actually checking off the things I said I want to do, meal planning and exercising. This is just a really good representation of what I want to accomplish with this notebook. The other thing I want to mention as we wrap up this video is to return to these introductory pages and say my goal is in this next half of this year to actually be more intentional with using these pages in some way, because so far I have not used them. So they have this kind of calendar overview page. They have a nice big blank page for you to do some kind of, I guess, yearly type setup. There is a goal breakdown page. Again, totally empty, nothing going on for me right now. And then there were Q1 priorities and kind of a tracking setup. So I tried to do that in Q2. And you can see I kind of set up 3 priorities. I tried to break them down by each month in terms of things I should get done to achieve them. And then I tried to put my habit tracking over here instead of doing it in my weeklies, but I just found that I wasn't going back to this every day like I would need to actually habit track. So I'm not sure that that worked for me. As we move into Q3, one thing I was thinking about for these pages is still doing a priorities and goal breakdown by the month, but then maybe over here doing some kind of cleaning tracker, because I have been wanting to implement a cleaning tracker into my planning system. So that might be what I do with this page, but I would really, really love to know your ideas for how you use all of these different introductory pages at the beginning of your planner. So I hope you enjoyed that flip through and that it gave you some inspiration, some motivation, and also some encouragement. If you enjoyed this video, do make sure you are subscribed because our next few videos are going to continue this mid-year check-in series. We will be flipping through some of my other journals, so make sure you have the notifications on or that you are a member on my Patreon where I always share and announce new videos. And in the meantime, consider watching one of these videos next for more inspiration to explore your creativity and document your life.